What's up, Unison? It's your boy Breezy. Let's go ahead and go over some of our new characters. 3 of them. We've got Danzo, we've got Tobi, and Hebi Sasuke. Let's start with the newest. We got Danzo. So I would consider him, a little bit similar to NA's Danzo in that he actually tries to stay true to the anime manga version. And he does this by Izanagi. So ours is a little different. We've got a passive, which is something that NA didn't do, but we can do. So whenever Danzo loses health, this skill, the passive, and this is when he loses health, not when he takes damage. So even if he takes damage, if he doesn't lose health, it's not going to switch. But if he loses health, this becomes Izanagi for 1 turn. Izanagi's right here. Okay, if Danzo's... So Danzo, basically, he can't die. If his health drops to 1, or below 1, it can't, right? So if it drops to 1... Since his passive switches to Izanagi, he has 1 turn to cast Izanagi if it drops to 1, or he'll die. So you can kill him, but basically he's got a turn to survive. Now, what if he's stunned? You probably ask. Well, Izanagi can be used while stunned. So what Izanagi does is it restores himself to the state he was last turn, removes all enemy effects, and then he can use it while stunned. It's got 10 charges. We might have to nerf this, but as Jojo pointed out, actually nerfing this just means he gets to this faster, which probably might not be a good thing, but yeah. So very much like the Danzo on the show is that he can come back from the dead. If his health falls to 1, he has 1 turn to use this. Now the difference between this and NA, which is I think a better thing, this requires chakra. NA's, you used it once and then he had 10 turns that nobody could play against. There was no counterplay to it. Chakra drain teams will effectively screw Danzo and pressure in such as like every single turn, dropping him to 1 HP, so he literally can't do anything but cast Izanagi, which means at some point, he's probably going to run out of Gen. So, yeah. So that's his passive. Makes him interesting. So he's got a fairly cheap S1, or skill 1. It's 15 piercing damage. If they drop to 10 HP, they're executed. Executed is the new name for instant killed. Okay. After you use this, it becomes Vacuum Shuriken, which is S5. And during the summoning, the execute threshold is 20, not 10. But okay, so its alternate here is Vacuum Shuriken. It's going to deal 20 piercing damage to 1 enemy, 5 to all others. Becomes Vacuum Blade after being used. During the summoning, this deals 25 piercing to 1, 10 to all others. Okay, so the summoning, he summons a Baku. It starts at 20 health and splits all damage with Danzo. So a new thing we're doing, all summons are going to have a health pool that when summoned, if you destroy the health pool, the summon ends. Or it'll be on a timer, but the summon will end early if you kill it. And so it splits all damage, so 50-50, 20 health. That means it's going to take 40 damage to Danzo to kill the summoning. At the beginning of each of your turns, if the enemy did not use a skill last turn, or any enemy, they will be made unable to reduce damage or become invulnerable for 1 turn. Regardless of anything, as long as the summoning is alive, every turn, all enemies take 5 damage each turn. It's doubled if they didn't use a skill last turn. So it's 10, and they're unable to reduce damage or become invulnerable for a turn if they didn't use a skill. And it improves Danzo's skills as in S1, S5. Okay? And he's got his Koto Matsukami, stun somebody for 2 turns. And then if he uses his S1 or S5 on a target, the target of this skill that's stunned will cast their last used offensive skill on the Danzo's target. So it could be pretty powerful. It's pretty costly. Pretty high cooldown. This can only happen once. Unless you have a cooldown refresh effect. See how it has a cooldown in 1? That's the only time you can ever get the target to cast multiple spells, but normally it'll be only 1 time during a cast. Reverse 4, this is S7, so reverse 4 symbol ceiling. This is only if Izanagi runs out of charges. If you use all 10 of them somehow, the passive becomes this skill. What to do? It targets all characters, including himself. 50 affliction damage for 2 turns. If Danzo kills himself, the skill ends. So it's basically like a huge fucking nuke. And nothing more to really say about that. So let's move on to the next character, Tobi. So he's got, his S1 is a channel. So channels, if you guys don't know, it's if you're casting a channel, if you cast a new skill, the channel will end. So to get the most out of the channel, you're going to cast it and not do anything afterwards. You're just going to let it do its thing. So channels for 3 turns, dealing 10 affliction damage each turn, stunning a target's helpful skills each turn, for 1 turn, obviously. If the channel lasts its full duration, if you let it go for 3 turns without casting any other of his skills, it becomes an alt for 1 turn. It becomes this alt. So he targets the target that was affected by Kamui struck the previous turn, dealing 20 affliction damage, and removing them from the game for 1 turn. So this is a new mechanic. If an enemy is removed from the game, that means they're basically treated as they're dead. They have all effects removed from them, all their skills end. They are untargetable, they are stunned, and if their allies are dead, they lose the match. So this happens for 1 turn. Oh, it's also, if you see down here in the classes, it's bypassing. This is going to ignore invuln. It's uncounterable, unreflectable. You cannot stop this. So he's got Sharingan. This is going to counter the next 2 enemy skills used on him. While active, he deals 5 additional damage with Kamui Strike, since it's his only damaging skill. And it channels for 1 less turn, so it's dealing the same amount of damage, because 3 turns with 10 would be 30, 2 turns with 15 would be 30. But you're getting to this skill faster. So if they have 2 dead allies and you get this channel, right, and you use this skill, they lose the game, regardless if they're at 100 health. And the cool thing about this is if he's going to be a 1v1 master, because if you're 1v1, activate this skill, activate this, they can't use helpful skills. They got to use 2 skills to even touch you, right? They're not going to be able to do that in time for this. So if you have the Genjutsu required, you win the game. He's going to be really good 1v1. Can't be used while active. It's got a hefty cooldown anyway. And it's invisible. Then you've got Izanagi. So Tobi sacrifices one of his eyes. So that's 2 charges. You can only use this twice. 2 turns from now, he will be restored to his current state. So if he dies, he's back to his current state when you cast this skill. Any effect he was using, anything that was happening to him at the time, he's restored to that. While these 2 turns are, waiting, he ignores non-damage effects, and Kamui Strike cannot be canceled. So basically, this can't be stunned, canceled, anything. He can cast skills, no problem, without canceling this. It's a very powerful move. That's why it's got 2 charges. I mean, it's just crazy powerful. But if he's the last one alive and he dies, you still lose the match. 3 dead, no matter what. Doesn't matter if you have Izanagi active, means you lose. That's just going to be a rule of the game. And then he's got a passive. So if he ignores all enemy damage and non-damage effects, so he ignores everything. If he's currently not using a skill, and he hasn't used one for 1 turn. So if you just was cast this and it ended, and the next turn he can't be touched. No, it has to wait a turn, so he can't, like, he's not invincible all the time. And then just so, like, to avoid somebody just trolling and clicking and not doing anything 1v1 and just letting the opponent just get frustrated, the entire skill is deactivated if he's last alive. So, next. Got Hebi Sasuke. Interesting character. He's kind of like a mix of a damage dealer, healer. So he's got S1, which is 10 piercing damage if you use it on an enemy, and it marks them for the rest of the game. So one enemy and one ally can be marked at a time. If you like hit another one, it's going to mark the new one and then unmark the previous. So 10 piercing on an enemy, 10 damage reduction for an ally, marks them for one turn. So marked characters are immune to S2 stun, okay? And they receive 5 more damage and healing from Sasuke. So S2 is kind of like a double-edged sword type of skill. So Sasuke channels for up to 2 turns. And when the skill ends, all enemies and allies take 5 piercing damage and are stunned for 1 turn for every turn the skill channeled. So if it channels for 1 turn, they're all stunned for 1. And that's why it kind of has, so you can mark somebody, right? And they ignore this stun. So you can pick and choose who's ignoring this stun. Which one of your allies is going to be the one who's not stunned, you know, and able to, you know, use skills while Chidori Current goes off, because you're doing a lot of play with this skill. If Sasuke was targeted by a new offensive skill while channeling, that skill's countered and the channel ends early, so the stun happens early. So this gives the opponent a chance to stop it from stunning themselves for 2 turns, and, you know, can at least get just a 1 turn stun off, excuse me. Another cool thing you can do with this is, you'd think, like, why would I want an enemy to not be stunned? Well, if you have, let's say you stun somebody or stun their team with this skill, and then they have somebody who's unstunnable. Well, unstunned opponents take bonus effects from his other skills. So S3, for instance, deals 25 piercing damage each turn for 2 turns, and if they're not stunned, so if they're not stunned from Chidori Current, they're going to be stunned. So even though it didn't stun them, right, this skill is going to stun them anyway. So they're, not only are their allies not able to do anything, they are now stunned and taking damage, and nobody can do anything about it. That's why it's so good. Or you can use it on an ally, right? Each turn for 2 turns, because just like the fact that they're not stunned, that's a boost in and of itself. So let's help our allies that are stunned out, right? So if they are stunned, they become immune to stun effects, and they're getting healed every turn. So, you know, just all in all, pretty good. This is a classic invuln skill, so invuln 1 turn for cooldown, 1 random, right? But if Chidori Current is used while the skill is active, so if you're invulnerable and you use Chidori Current, it's going to trigger its full effect after 1 turn. Alright, then you've got Lightning Blade here, which deals 25 piercing damage, and if they are not stunned, it stuns them for 1 turn. So it's the same like play with Chidori Current, right? It since somebody's not able to be stunned, well, you can choose that they're going to be able to stun now with this skill, or, you know, heals Sasuke or heals an ally of his 25 HP, and if they are stunned, you know, because that's not good, it reduces Sasuke's cooldowns for 1 turn, so you get some more Chidori Current play, obviously. So yeah, that's about all for him. So thanks, peace.